back to another episode of the Achievement Hub, brought to you by Redline Rentals NC. Today I'm with a very special guest, my good friend, one of the most intelligent people I know, Jay Desai. Man, how's it going, Jay?
It's going great. Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
You gotta tell me, how's your day so far? I mean, we just, went through a little much.
Dude, it's been a long day. I mean, we went to the Umstead, North Carolina's only 5-star resort and spa.
Mm-hmm.
And, we got drinking vinegars, which are non-alcoholic beverages that they make really well there, because neither of us drink alcohol. We're trying to say halal, And, we got kicked out by security because we were filming, and they almost called the police on us. I'm sure they wouldn't have done that if we pulled up in the Lamborghinis, huh? Right, so part 2 we're going to be doing there. We're going to book a room. They're going to try and kick us out, but we're going to show them, like, hey, you're trying to kick out your guests? What kind of 5-star resort are you?
All right, let's get straight into it. Now, Jay, I brought you on this podcast. Why? Because you're one of the most intelligent and knowledgeable people I know, right? And I want our viewers to learn something today. Just to start off, can you give a little bit of your background? Like, where are you from originally?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada. I went to elementary, middle, and high school there. And I lived there for a portion of time while I was in college, over the summers and during the breaks. And then right in my senior year, I moved to North Carolina, here in Raleigh, Holly Springs specifically. And afterwards I graduated, and I've made Raleigh my home since. My last year of college, my family home moved to North Carolina. And actually, It wasn't even a home. We were living in a 1-bedroom apartment with my brother, me, and my parents. And me and my brother were actually in the loft area of the kitchen. So that was our living situation for about a year, and then now we have a house, so it's nice.
So when you first moved to North Carolina and you're living in that house, what kind of made you go the business route?
Okay, so that requires me to go a little bit earlier. So I was in college. I was actually pre-med. So I have a degree in biology. But now what I do is I own a tech company. So it's been a long journey to getting there, right?
I mean, what's that like doing med school? And then you mentioned to me you dropped out of med school.
I did drop out of med school during orientation week.
I mean, what makes you decide something huge like that? Especially, in life, that's right. A crazy decision.
Yeah, so for me, it was really just because I think I have greater potential than just being in medicine. Not to say that, not to undermine that profession. I think it's a beautiful profession. I think it does a lot for humankind. It's just I think the capabilities and talents that God has designed me for is not to go to med school. It's to do things in tech, because I'm really good at innovating, engineering, and business. And I think I would be doing myself a disservice if I went to medical school.
I mean, is an inspiration kind of helping others, or?
Right. Honestly, man.
Because going from med school to business is kind of switching the whole flow. Med school, you want to learn to help others.
Right. And I still would have enjoyed becoming a doctor. I still truly believe that. It's just I think there's a lot of problems I have with becoming a doctor, and a lot of opportunities I see in my current field that I don't see if I were to go into medicine. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go into a little bit of a story. So, guys, I was in college, and I was a pre-med. A filthy, disgusting pre-med, okay? I was studying all day, trying to get a really good GPA. I got a super good MCAT score. I got a 100 percentile score.
Oh, wow.
And I was locked in, right? I was like, time to apply to med school. So normally between undergrad and med school, you take a gap year. Mm-hmm. And in that gap year, you work on your clinical skills and stuff, and that improves your chances of getting into med school. I want you guys to know that I got into one medical school. That's it. And I had really good grades. And also, obviously, a good MCAT score. But for me, during my gap year, what I ended up doing was experimenting. I saw this opportunity created by the U.S. government to develop a new technology that did not exist. And they were giving companies that could build this technology a ton of money. So I saw this opportunity, and I was like, hey, in my gap year, instead of doing a bunch of clinical stuff, why don't I just see if I can win this? It just started as let me see if I can make a little bit extra money on the side. And long story short, my company ended up winning the entire thing.
So that whole gap year, you spent the whole year just grinding out for that one,
Yep, it's my company.
your company.
So I didn't even know what an LLC was until May of 2022. It is currently June 14th, June 17th, 2024. So just 2 years ago, I didn't even know what an LLC was. Like, I had no clue.
For the viewers that still might not know what an LLC is, can you do a quick explanation?
Right, so an LLC is a limited liability corporation. It's essentially a business entity. There's multiple different types of business entities you can have, but the whole idea is it is a separate entity instead of you. So you're separating your liability from the business's liability. There's three types. There's LLCs, S corporations, and C corporations. And depending on your business size and goals, you incorporate in a different entities structure.
And can just anyone go get an LLC?
Yeah, anyone can get an LLC. You just have to register in the state that you want to do business in. So for me, my LLCs are here in North Carolina.
Is it possible to, venture out to different states and, do LLCs there?
Yeah. Most common is like, a lot of people will start C corporations in Delaware, for example, because Delaware has their own like court system that expedites the whole process of legal stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it also makes, venture capital, if you ever want to raise money for your business, they all love Delaware C corporations.
Now, you hustled a lot during that gap year. I mean, you made a kid's dream come true. Everyone wishes to do that, to make that kind of money, to complete a goal. What advice can you give to someone out there that wants to start?
Right. So my advice to someone who wants to start is, at the end of the day, business is about offering a product or service to someone that they need in exchange for money. So my advice to young entrepreneurs would be, find a problem that you can solve, that you can trade your solution for in exchange for money.
Now, can it be any problem or small problem, big problem?
Right. So it depends on what you're going for, because some ideas are going to take a lot more capital and knowledge and resources to execute than others. So for example, if you're going to do an exotic car rental company, right, you're going to need cars to rent out to people. That's going to either take a lot of social connections if you're going to consign it, or it's going to take a lot of capital to buy the car. So you need to understand where you're at, understand what your strengths are, and then leverage those strengths by either creating a product or selling a product or service to someone in exchange for money. And then investing that money very carefully towards growing your business is how you scale from there. And then you can start expanding to other businesses and stuff. So for example, like my tech company, I got a decent amount of profits from that. I invested some of it to consign a car with you guys, for example, right? And that's just the way to do it. You get money from that, pull it in, invest it towards more stuff. Take the profits from that, invest that towards more stuff. And eventually you just have a bunch of assets that are all just paying for your life.
And that's the exact blueprint.
Right.
You made that happen. You followed that blueprint, and look where you are now.
Right. And I still have a long ways to go, but I definitely think I've made some very solid progress in the past couple of years.
Now, you were talking about scaling a business.
Right.
I think that's one of the most important things in business, especially scaling it, quick enough as well. What advice can you give to viewer out here that wants to scale their business? Let's say they've been at a steady pace, steady income. They want to scale it. What's the best advice you could give for that?
It's actually super simple. Just take some of the profits you have from your business and use it to get more people on your team. That's the easiest way to scale. So for example, for me, it would be, I got some profits from doing X. I took some of that money and I invested it towards hiring somebody to work with me. And now, because we're working together and his abilities complement mine, we're able to do 3 to 4x more than we could individually. So that's the way to do it. And then you take some of that profit, instead of paying tax on it, write it off, hire somebody else, or invest in equipment, invest in things that are going to be able to produce you more money in your business. That's how you scale. You need to be aggressively taking your money and investing it towards things that can make you more money.
Now, I heard not too long ago, one man can scale a business to a certain point. But if he wants to get to that next level, he needs to build a team. He needs to surround himself with other players. Do you believe that's true?
100%. 100%. I think if you are a very capable guy or girl and you have tons of skill, passion, drive, and you're willing to work hard, you can go very far just as one person. Don't get me wrong. But I think if you want to hit that next level, it's imperative you have a team. It's imperative. Because there are people who can do things better than you. For example, I know a guy who's insanely good at sales.
Mm-hmm.
I can't sell as good as him. But I can engineer tech way better than he can. And he can go out and sell it. You see what I'm saying? So, like, you need people with complementary skills to you if you want to scale. That's just, it's a no-brainer to me.
Each player has to play a specific role.
Right.
And if each player understands that role they have to play, then you're going to scale.
Yep.
Now, Jay, when would you say is the best time to start a business, a brand new business?
You need to start a business when you see an opportunity for it. That is honestly the best way to do it. Because you don't want to just start a business without thinking. You need to think. What kind of opportunity is there? Can I solve this? Can I offer a solution or a product or service that can meet the demand created by this opportunity? And do I have the right resources, or do I have a plan to acquire the right resources I need to execute? So you need to start a business based on opportunity.
Well, one thing I would say is sometimes you have to create your opportunity.
Right.
I wouldn't just say the opportunity is there for you to just grab. You kind of have to take that risk and create that opportunity, open it.
I agree.
Because by the time that opportunity is there to grab, someone else is already starting that next business. Someone else is 100%. There to take it.
That's a good point. But you asked, when was the best time to start a business?
All right. One thing I do want to get into is being a business owner. Now, how many businesses do you own? You own?
Technically 3.
Technically 3? Now, owning one business itself is extremely hard, especially trying to scale it from the beginning. What allowed you to branch off and create 3 more? 2 more.
Well, the main business is, it's mainly managed by me. But my other 2 businesses are not mainly managed by me. I have partners in them who can, handle a lot of the work that is difficult for me to do, and I can handle a lot of the stuff that's difficult for them to do. So because of that, I've been able to delegate a lot of the responsibilities and work to my trusted business partners, and that's how I'm able to have 3. It's because I have allies that I can work with to build something greater. And that's honestly one of my greatest pieces of advice. You need to find allies. You need to find homies that you can, over anything, you can trust. Trust is the most important thing. People you can trust to be there, work with you, grind it out, get through all the BS, and get into the good times of your business.
I mean, in today's world, it's hard to find others like us. I mean, you will. I mean, like the same way we met, eventually you will find others like you. But how do you know they're the right person?
You can kind of just tell after you've met enough people. I don't know how to describe it, honestly. It's really tough to put into words. But I think there's just a certain type of way that people you can trust carry themselves. And you can tell by their work ethic. Mm-hmm. Don't look at what they're saying. Look at their actions. Are they delivering what they said they would? Are they being honest to you? Are they being transparent? These are all things that I personally look for when, I guess vetting someone out to see whether I want to do business with them. Because I know I can offer a lot to whoever I'm doing business with. And I know there's people out there who can offer me a lot. And together, if that trust is there, that brotherhood is there, I feel extremely confident that a lot can be done. Because I've been able to do it through that exact method.
I'm sure you have, but has there been any cases where you've been let down by someone you've trusted?
Of course. I think it happens a lot less often now because I've gotten better. I'm not fully perfect, of course, but I've definitely gotten better at being able to tell, okay, this guy's the real one. This guy's fake. And if he's fake, I would recommend reevaluating whether you actually want to do business with that person, mm-hmm. right? Because there's going to be times where, there's a lot of money involved, potentially. There's a lot of responsibility involved. And if you don't have someone that will stick with you, ride or die, I don't think it's worth it. I genuinely don't.
I agree with you on that. I mean, having the right person next to you. I mean, one of the most common things said is you are who you hang around.
Right.
You are your friends. And it's completely true. Personally, something I like doing is every once in a while, I just like keeping my alone time. I'll go do something I like. Jay, for you, you stay so busy with your businesses and being an entrepreneur. What do you kind of do in your free time, if you have free time?
Honestly, I would say I have a decent amount of free time. I genuinely do. Like, I'm not as I think one thing that's very pushed because of hustle culture is like,
Mhm.
yo, like I'm always doing this, I'm always grinding. Like, when I work, I'm fully present. I'm grinding to my limit.
Mhm.
But I also do think I have a decent amount of free time. I genuinely do. My problem, I wouldn't even say it's a problem in my eyes, but my thing is I always like to be doing some sort of activity that's related towards self-growth or business, right?
Mhm.
Like, in my spare time, for example, today I was like looking at a bunch of cars and being like, okay, like which of these would be the best investments to add to a fleet? You see what I'm saying? Like, so that's what I was doing in my spare time today. I have more spare time on this podcast, right? Like, I'm talking to you. I'm learning from you. I'm trying to give some information here. So I'm always trying to do something productive with my time, even in my spare time.
Now, would you say there's like common characteristics in entrepreneurs that are successful, or is everyone
Yeah.
kind of different in their own way?
I think there's definitely a lot of differences, but what I have noticed is that entrepreneurs, more than anything, they're willing to take calculated risks. If you do not take a risk, you will not be able to move forward to the level you want to. So for me, that risk was dropping out of medical school. I got into medical school. I had a pretty secure, stable, high-paying path in front of me. But I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go to medical school. And at that point, my business was doing pretty good, but it's not at the level where it is now, right? I was still like a little hesitant to drop out. I had to really think about it. And I had to have a conversation with my parents as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know about you, but my parents would kill me if they saw me drop out of school.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't kill me because I think they understood. They saw what I'd been able to accomplish.
You had something to prove already.
Right. So I had like results, and my dad especially. He's definitely not going to be watching this, but that man deserves, like, he has my utmost respect because he believed in me, and he knew that if he gave me the opportunity, I would be able to execute on it. And he really was like the guy who encouraged me to do it and took on the risk too, because my mom would have been mad at him being like, oh, you let her son, like, not go to med school.
Would you say he's your number one inspiration?
Yes, 100%.
Not even anyone from the past in history?
No.
Your father?
Yes, 100%.
I respect
No question.
that. Can you give me some stories or times in the past where you've learned something major from him?
I'll share a story. So basically, I did this thing called Kumon when I was a kid. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I don't know what Kuma is.
It's like this math worksheet thingy-majiggy. It goes up to like advanced level calculus, I would say. So my dad would sit me down home from school, and I'd be doing Kumon worksheets literally all day long. And if I did not succeed, there would be punishments.
Oh, I think we all went through that punishment.
Exactly. But I think that really made me like get really good at academics. And yeah, I mean, honestly, like looking back at it, I'm really grateful because it helped me become, like, I would say, really good at math and engineering, and a lot of those skills have translated to my current success. So, but my dad would sit there with me for hours after work, just making sure I'm doing these worksheets, tutoring me, disciplining me if I was missing the questions. But dude, it was great. Like, it genuinely like made me so mentally sharp, I think.
I mean, speaking of your childhood, was that kind of how you spent it, just continuous work, learning, especially at a young age?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things for me that like was 100% the most defining reason that I am like where I am today was I did a lot of competitive competitions, like competitive academic type of competitions in middle school and high school, like at the national level. So I was really good. Like I got national medals at like Science Olympiad, for example.
Wow.
Which there's a whole story of like how that all came down. But basically, I learned through that I was extremely capable of achieving things at a high level if I like really grinded. And it made me extremely competitive, and honestly, I get like a mental high when I'm competing. It's weird to describe, but it feels
I
like,
understand you.
Like, I get an insane amount of adrenaline and satisfaction when I'm competing. And whenever I'm doing business, it feels like I'm competing, right? So it's just, I constantly feel like adrenaline when I'm like doing business, and it's hugely
I think
important.
I think that's amazing. I mean, that's kind of what differs you from the average man. You know, how old are you, if you don't mind me
I'm
asking?
23.
23. That's crazy. I don't know why I thought you were like 27 or something.
Dude, I don't know, man. The stress has aged me.
Oh, tell me about it. Look at me. Grow a whole beard from stress.
Bruh. It looks good, though. Shout out Larry.
Hey, Larry Cuts.
Larry
Always.
Cuts, best barber.
All right, guys. So we just made a little quick relocation, but let's continue this. I want to move on, to something a little bit different. Something huge in the business game is taxes. Now, I'm not gonna ask too much, but just give me kind of a beginning breakdown on taxes.
Right. So, as a business owner, one of your biggest expenses, and for some people, your biggest expense altogether is going to be taxes.
Yeah.
So you obviously need a strategy to pay less in taxes, obviously, because you're trying to keep as much of your profits. And the way to do that is the U.S. tax code is brilliantly designed, where essentially you are kind of, as a business owner, incentivized to reinvest your profits towards growth through business expenses so that your income is lower and you pay less in taxes. So basically how it works, your taxes are based on your net income. So, let's say you make 100K in revenue and you spend 50K worth of business expenses. Your profits are going to be 50K, so you have to pay taxes on that 50K, right? But honestly, obviously the problem is going to be bigger as your income scales. So you're going to need to figure out new ways in order to either A, grow your business, or B, invest in assets that you can depreciate to offset the income that your business generates. So that's why so many people are into real estate, because real estate, you can actually depreciate the property against your active income if you use like the short-term rental loophole, right? That's currently in place for Airbnbs.
I mean, what's some certain tax tips you use, in your personal business?
Right. So obviously, like most people know the obvious things, like for example, any supplies for your business, any meals for your business, you can write off 50%. So for example, we got a meal earlier, and that was a business write-off because we were conducting business there, and that means you pay your income for your business is lower, which means you pay less taxes, right? Some other stuff that I think is really interesting is certain vehicles can be written off. So for example, vehicles that have a gross vehicle weight rating of above 6,000 pounds, for 2024, you can write off 60% of the purchase price of that vehicle, assuming you use it 100% for your business. So for example, like a Urus, if you're putting it in the rental fleet, and it's 100% for the rental fleet, you can write off 60% of the value of that car, which is a neat way for writing off some money.
Especially if you're making that 40% back over time.
Right.
Now, personally, I've seen you use tax write-offs on an everyday basis. For example, my favorite tax write-off, your Ray-Bans that have the camera with it.
Right.
Now, you just use that for business, right?
Yeah. So like anytime I go to any sort of event for my business or any sort of, social event for Redline, I record using those sunglasses, and that video footage is used to promote the branding. So that's a very legitimate and clear business use case for that device, which means I can buy these Ray-Ban sunglasses and I can write them off. That's probably the only sunglasses you can buy to write off.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Highly recommended, by the way. This guy was walking around mine, bro, the other day.
I'm not gonna lie. When you're done using those, I'm gonna need them.
I got you, bro.
So we are relocating once again. Dog's gonna be extra noisy today. So I want to continue this about taxes. You're giving some very valuable information.
Right.
As a business owner, I want to buy a camera, let's say.
Right.
I could just write that off for my business, the full, complete camera.
If you're using it for business, primarily, yes. So obviously, you need to be able to justify this in the case you get audited, right? You need to play by the legal rules that the IRS has set. The equipment needs to be used for business purposes. That's got to be the main function of that equipment. And if you're not using it fully for business, you got to sometimes prorate
the percentage that you use it for business.
Well, when you say that, is it fine to, take some videos, of your family, or, you're on a vacation maybe, and then go back to business?
Right. So
Would that
obviously,
affect it?
I'm not a tax professional, so I'm not the right person to answer that question.
You seem like a professional.
But I definitely know a decent amount about taxes because, I've obviously had to deal with my fair share of having to figure out ways to leverage the tax code.
What would you say is your best tax tip for someone out there that wants to abuse kind of the taxes?
Well, I'm not about abusing the tax code. I'm all about leveraging the IRS tax code to, make intelligent investments into your business so that you can get tax advantages. So one of my favorite things to do, obviously, is reinvesting into my business. Like buy more equipment, buy more gear, invest in people. The second thing I really like to do is add to the rental fleet. So if you guys want to consign a vehicle, Redline Rentals right
Shout
here.
out Redline Rentals.
Right. So if the vehicle is above 6,000 pounds gross vehicle weight rating, you can write off 60% of the vehicle's price as a huge. They'll give you a huge freaking loss.
Some cars, for example, like a Rolls Royce. Would Range Rover fall under that?
Yeah, a lot of Range Rovers do. Also, the Taycan is one that a lot of people don't know about. Porsche Taycan. It's a sports car, but because it's electric, you can write off the 60% because its gross vehicle weight rating is above 6,000 pounds because the batteries are so damn heavy. They did that on purpose.
Is there any more cool secret tips that we should know?
The cool thing about the cars, you can actually finance a lot, and not just cars. You can finance things. So let's say you put 20% down, but you can take the full write-off for them. So you can get like $100,000 write-off, even though you only spent $20,000 to finance the other $80K.
Oh, wow.
That's something a lot of people are leveraging, and especially with real estate and vehicles.
So I think I'm starting to get it. So when it comes to taxes, you want your profits to be as low as they can possibly be.
Exactly. You want to be investing as much of your extra money back into your business or into cash flowing assets. Like, for example, the most basic ones are real estate, but also it could also be like a vehicle. It could also be some sort of other alternative investment that you can write off that you can now like rent out, for example.
Well, where do some people mess up with filing taxes or tax write-offs?
Dude, they don't fully understand like the IRS tax code because it's honestly very confusing. I think you guys do it on purpose, IRS, if you're watching this, but it's very confusing. It's really difficult to understand like what do these guys mean by this specific clause. So you really got to talk to a tax professional or, learn from them because it's going to be very valuable investment you can make in your company, especially as it grows.
Speaking about investments, now not just personally, but just for the average business owner out there,
right?
What is your best investment?
Dude, definitely invest in your own knowledge and your own skills because the more you know, the more you can do, the more you're going to be able to make things happen. And definitely, like for me, like the reason my first business was very, successful was because I was able to learn a lot of tech skills that I could apply towards solving problems and exchanging that service for capital. So definitely invest in yourself and your own knowledge before everything else.
Today, I want you to tell me a little bit more about the materialistic things and an advantage to use that as a tax write-off. For example, watches.
Right. So the unfortunate reality, based on my experiences, is that people do judge you based on what they see and their initial impressions. So if you pull up in a Lamborghini versus you pull up in a Camry, the sad reality is the majority of people are going to treat you differently, right? So you need to learn how to intelligently use some of these assets to your advantage. So one of the ones I like the most is watches. So any watch from Rolex, AP, Patek Philippe, or Richard Mille, those are, in my experience, have been fantastic investments. And here's why. So normally, like, you'd be like, okay, you're spending this money on a watch. Like, what's the value of it, right? Because it's not making you any money. It's not like an asset that's cash flowing. So why should you get one? I would encourage that after you make your first 100K, like you have 100K in the bank account, go buy a Rolex if you're super driven. And the reason why is you can get into watch clubs and meet other people with these watches, and they're a great conversation starter. And more times than not, people who have these watches are going to have some sort of like financial prowess, aka a lot of them are going to be business owners, and you can join these circles by getting a timepiece like this, and it's going to hold its value super well if you buy it at retail.
All right,
Get a
quick
watch.
question. Go-to watch.
Well, my beater, he's actually wearing it right now, the Milgauss.
How much does something like that go for?
It's pretty cheap, like 11 grand
Yeah, pretty cheap.
for a
11
watch.
grand.
And then I'm wearing a Yachtmaster right now. This is my secondary beater. This is the first watch I ever bought, actually, the first Rolex. There's a secret hack to buying them at retail, but that's for another time.
So after you got over that first hunch, you hit that first 100K, what was your next step?
Okay, so honestly, in my opinion, making that first 100K is one of the most difficult parts because you usually don't have a lot of money to deploy to get that 100K. But once you do, I feel like it becomes a lot easier. You just went, the difficulty level, in a way, has decreased. First thing you should do is, if you have an LLC, which you should if you're making 100K, to protect yourself from liability, you need to elect to be taxed as an S corporation. And here is why. When you're an LLC, you have to pay self-employment tax and federal/state income tax if you live in the jolly state of North Carolina, which charges a whopping 5% state tax when the roads are dog shit. Sorry, that was the first time I cursed on the podcast.
Nice.
But the roads are honestly horrible, and they charge 5% tax for what? For what? But anyways, you need to elect to be taxed as an S corp, and here's why. Essentially, you're gonna get double taxed if you're an LLC. First is the self-employment tax of 15.4%, and then you gotta pay income tax. So if you structure yourself as an S corp, you can have your accountant do this, but elect to be taxed as an S corp. What you do is you pay yourself a salary, 50K, 60K. I mean, you're a young dude, come on. And only that salary is taxed at the with the self-employment tax. The rest of it flows through without any self-employment tax. So if you're making 500K a year, you're paying yourself a 100K salary. Only that 100K is subject to self-employment tax, which saves you a ton of money, 60 grand in potential self-employment tax that you would need to be paying.
Now, something I want to ask you, Jay, before you leave is, what's one piece of advice, the greatest piece of advice you could give out to the viewers right now?
That's a tough question because honestly, I have a ton of different things I could say here, and I think that advice genuinely varies based on person to person. But if I had to give you just one thing to leave you with, it would be go ahead and take that calculated risk. Because honestly, if you don't take that risk, nothing's going to happen. If you don't take action, nothing's going to happen. At the end of the day, everyone has ideas. Everyone has plans and visions and dreams and goals. Like, I want to get this Ferrari. I want to get this Lamborghini. I want to get this house. I want to be financially free. But guess what? If you don't actually go out and execute, nothing is going to happen. Execution beats ideas every time. You need to go out and work for it. You need to do things that will get you money, not just think about it and talk about it and dream about it. You just need to get things done. That's my number one advice. Take that risk, make sure it's calculated, and go out and get shit done. That's what I'd say you guys got to do if you want to become
I really
successful.
like that. I truly like that. And that kind of reminded me of something I saw earlier. And it was talking about business owners and the risk they take.
Right.
So we'll have billionaires lose millions to make those billions, right? We'll have millionaires lose hundreds of thousands to make those millions.
Right.
But why do we have people that have a couple thousand or 100,000? Why don't they want to lose that thousand to make that?
Well, yeah, for a lot of people, it just comes down to, this, like, obviously a millionaire is going to have a ton of money. So if they lose some and they invest some, it's not the end of the world for them. But, when you're starting out, the risk is a lot greater because it puts you very behind if you fail. But the thing is, if you don't try, you're not going to get anywhere. So you got to try. And there's a lot of business ideas you can start without having that much capital. It's just going to take your time as your primary investment. So when you're starting out, invest your time. Go out, learn from others who are doing well, take action, work with your buddies, just get stuff done. Something will click with time in most cases. And just, if you are more risk averse, go out and work, stack your bread for a few years. And then once you have a little bit of capital as a safety net, then go out and take that risk. And you'll feel a lot more comfortable. But whatever you got to do, if you want to get to that next level, you need to take risk. There is no profit without risk.
I mean, that's great. It's completely true as well. personally, risk has done nothing but help me out in life. You know, it's brought me to where I am today, you know, having business, being in this position, being able to be a leader to others, you know, help the viewers learn something.
Right.
You know, doing this podcast, for example, that was a risk. You know, I started this a month ago, not knowing what I was going to do, had no plan, no preparation, and just went for it, took action. I didn't want to spend too much time thinking about how I'm going to do it or how I'm going to take action. You know, I was thinking of buying a camera, but I forgot I have connects. I have people I know. I have a strong network, you know, that could help me out. And all that plays a role. All that, the network, the risk, the action, all that connects and balances into your work life and makes you a better person and more successful.
Thanks.
Now, I think today's episode contained a lot of knowledge, especially for the viewers. You know, if you're watching this, save it, watch it, you know, as many times as you need to learn something. But Jay, I truly do appreciate you coming out today.
No problem,
and
my guy.
We're definitely going to be back at Umstead Hotel for that part 2.
Part 2, baby, coming soon.